In the midst of her wedding ceremony, my sister knelt in front of everyone begging for my forgiveness because the groom had just discovered she was the one who caused me to miscarry. Before anything else, if you're watching and feel the weight of injustice in this story, please hit subscribe quietly. Your support helps me share more stories that most people dare not tell. I am Grace, 31 years old, and I've never spoken about this before. I'm telling this now because the pain of holding it inside has nearly broken me. 5 years ago, I lost the baby. I dreamed about a baby that disappeared not because of fate, but because of my own sister. You might wonder how someone so close could betray in such a fundamental way. Maybe you felt stuck in your own family, loved but invisible, erased except when someone wants to pin something on you. My story is not just about loss. It's about betrayal by blood, the kind that cuts deeper than any knife. When we were younger, our parents always pitted us against each other without meaning to. My sister Hannah was the golden child. Straight A's, varsity sports, the cheer captain, homecoming queen. She was charismatic, magnetic, always front and center. Meanwhile, I was quiet, bookish, more comfortable observing than performing. At family gatherings, it was always, "Hannah must be so proud," or "Look how talented she is." I learned early that to survive, I needed to stay out of the spotlight. So I learned to be helpful, cooking dinner, cleaning up, listening when no one else did. I became the fixer, the listener, the one nobody really noticed unless something broke. Hannah thrived on attention. Our parents gushed over her achievements while ignoring mine. When she got that athletic scholarship, we celebrated her, not the debate team award I won the same week. There was always something to compare, a way for her to shine brighter at my expense. Things started shifting when I got engaged to Ethan at age 25. I left the house we shared behind, ready to build a life away from the shadows. Hannah was happy at first. She said she'd never seen me so alive. But then, strange things started. Subtle jabs at dinner when I came to visit. Backhanded compliments about how responsible I was. The way she emphasized how perfect she was for Ethan's family. When I got pregnant, we hadn't told anyone but each other. I wanted it to be just ours, before sharing with the world. I thought my sister would be happy. Instead, I felt tension in her eyes whenever I smiled or talked about the future. During those months, she was often over at our house dropping by to help. She always made sure the talk turned to how busy and important her life was, her job, her friends, her achievements. One evening, a minor argument over some kitchen mess took a turn. She shoved me in front of her guests. I stumbled, hit the edge of the counter hard. I saw stars. My vision blurred. I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen. I clutched at my dress, falling onto the floor. My miscarriage started that night. She said sorry later, in the hallway quietly. I didn't mean it. I believed her. What else could I do? I swallowed my grief, cut contact, and tried to rebuild. But every memory of her that crept into my mind ripped open old wounds. I was in shock, fully heartbroken, yet I still silenced the part of me that wanted to speak out. I hid the miscarriage from everyone. In my family's eyes, I was still the strong one who just moved on without drama. I watched from a distance as Hannah got engaged, planned the most lavish wedding our parents ever approved of. They didn't see I was paying attention. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I hesitated, but ultimately agreed. My own grief felt like a wound healed enough to surface their fake smiles stitched over old scars. I said yes because I wanted it to feel like normal again. I wanted something good to exist between us again, even if just on the surface. That brings us here, the morning of her wedding. The ceremony hall glowed with strings of fairy lights, pastel floral arrangements, and the hum of polite excitement. Friends and family posed for photos as soft violin music filtered through the air. I stood beside my sister in my navy bridesmaid dress, holding her flowers, smiling calmly while my heart pounded in my chest. In that moment, I realized how hard I'd held this quiet anger. How many times I'd replayed that fallback in my mind. How many nights I woke up thinking about what she did. And yet, there I was carrying bouquets, adjusting her veil, breathing distractedly through every smile. I was the perfect picture of support, my face calm, eyes steady, The kind of restraint that most people respect, never screaming, never storming off, because that's the exact power they want you not to use. A silent refusal to become their victim any longer. Then, the turn that changed everything. The soft click of a playback device turning on. The bride's phone replaced the recorded vows. A voice calm, flat speaking through the speakers. Remember that night, Hannah. You pushed Grace. You hurt her. And now she's gone because of you. I froze. My stomach plunged. The violins screeched. Someone gasped. Panic rippled across guests' faces. Ethan's eyes widened as he recognized the voice. The microphone trembled in my hand. I hadn't even clicked it. The hall fell silent. Hannah staggered. Her posture collapsed. Father looked stunned. Mother gasped. Ethan turned to the recorder in disbelief. Nobody was prepared for what came next. The secret that shaped my silence now laid bare in the most public of places. And that is how part 1 ends. The introduction to the chaos that is about to follow. In that moment, everything I suppressed came rushing to the surface. A family facade began to crack, and I discovered that the truth once unleashed holds a power far greater than any enforced silence. I was never meant to outshine her. That was the unspoken rule in our household. When I think back on my childhood, I don't remember warm family dinners or bedtime stories. I remember waiting for attention, for affection, for someone to notice I existed. And when they did, it was only to remind me that I wasn't her. From the moment Hannah was born, the spotlight shifted permanently. She had complications at birth, something about her lungs, and from that day forward, my parents hovered over her like she was made of glass. Every sniffle became an emergency. Every scraped knee warranted a doctor's visit. And me? If I had a fever, I was told to drink water and rest. When I was 6, I got pneumonia. I remember lying on the couch, wrapped in 2 blankets, shivering. My mom didn't cancel her dinner plans. Instead, she told me, "Don't wake up your sister, she needs her rest." I didn't cry. I learned early that tears didn't earn me anything. Instead, I stayed quiet. That became my skill. Vanishing without leaving. Hannah was the kind of child who never missed a moment to perform. Dance recitals, spelling bees, birthday parties with handmade invitations and themed cupcakes. She could scream, throw tantrums, break plates, and she'd still be the one they protected. If I raised my voice once, I was labeled difficult. One Christmas, I made her a bracelet out of those cheap beads from the craft store. I stayed up until midnight, trying to get it just right. She opened the box, glanced at it, and said, "Did you make this?" before tossing it aside. That same day, she cried because our parents got her the wrong color iPhone case. The next morning, we drove back to the store so she could pick a new one. No one remembered my bracelet. But the worst wasn't the favoritism. It was how they rewrote it all to make her the victim. Grace understands, they'd say. She's more mature. It was their way of justifying why I was the one who always had to compromise. They weaponized my silence and called it strength. By high school, I knew what to expect. Hannah was on homecoming court by sophomore year. She got a car for her 16th birthday. I got her hand-me-down laptop when hers crashed. I graduated top of my class. She barely passed math. Still, it was her graduation party that got the backyard tent, the catered food, the professional photographer. I didn't complain. I focused on escaping. College became my golden ticket, and I left the moment I got my acceptance letter. I worked 2 jobs, applied for every grant, and moved into a tiny apartment 20 minutes from campus. My parents called once every few weeks, mostly, to ask if I could come home and help with something Hannah-related. I always said no. It was the only power I had. After graduation, I moved in with Ethan. He was steady, calm. He noticed things like how I always offered him the last bite of dessert or how I never let myself cry in front of others. He said I was kind. He said I deserved more. I started to believe him. We were 2 months into the pregnancy when we agreed to keep it a secret for a while. I was nervous, still processing the idea of being a mother. I wanted time to feel safe, to prepare, to build that little corner of peace I never had growing up. But Hannah had a key to our place, a leftover detail from her helping babysit our dog when we went on a trip. She never gave it back. She'd show up unannounced, complain about her job, her friends, her boyfriend. She never asked how I was doing. She never noticed the prenatal vitamins on the counter or the way I wore loose sweaters to hide the growing curve of my belly. Then came the night of the fall. It was so mundane, it still haunts me. She had barged in late, bringing takeout we didn't ask for, complaining about some girl at work. I made an offhand comment about boundaries, how maybe she should call before showing up. She scoffed and rolled her eyes, muttering something about how I'd changed since Ethan and I got all domestic. It escalated fast. I was already tired, nauseous, and hormonal. I told her I needed space. She snapped, saying I was acting better than everyone now. I turned to walk away, and she grabbed my arm. It wasn't violent, at least not at first. But when I pulled back, she shoved me, just hard enough to make me lose balance. I hit the kitchen counter. The pain was immediate, and then the blood came, a lot of it. I remember screaming Ethan's name. I remember him carrying me to the car, yelling at her to stay behind. I remember the sterile smell of the hospital room, the hollow voice of the doctor saying, "I'm sorry." I remember staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the squares because if I didn't, I'd break apart. I never told my parents the truth. I let them believe it was stress or a natural complication. Hannah never confessed, never even asked how I was after. She sent a text the next day. "Hope you're feeling better. Sorry about last night." That was it. I blocked her number that night. The months that followed were quiet, too quiet. I went back to work, threw myself into projects, convinced myself healing was a choice. I thought maybe the pain would fade. It didn't. What did fade was the guilt. Slowly, over time, I stopped feeling bad for her. I stopped defending her to people. I stopped pretending she didn't owe me something she could never repay. I watched from a distance as she got engaged, posted pictures of dress fittings, captioned everything with "number blessed." I never commented. I never liked a post. She was building her dream life on a foundation I knew was cracked. And then the invitation came. A gold-foiled card, thick as cardboard, addressed to Grace and Guest. I laughed when I opened it. I didn't RSVP. I didn't plan to go. But Ethan looked at me and said, "You should. Not for her, for you." So I went, and I waited. And when the mic clicked on, when her own voice filled that glittering hall, when she realized someone had heard everything she once said in secret, I watched it all fall apart. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt inevitable. They called me resilient. They said I had always been the strong one. What they didn't realize was being strong was never a choice. It was survival. After the miscarriage, I shut down everything that wasn't necessary. I stopped going to family gatherings. I stopped answering texts that weren't from Ethan. I threw myself into work, into a quiet kind of self-preservation. Every morning, I woke up and pretended the day ahead was just another task on a to-do list. Healing, I discovered, was not loud or cinematic. It was silent, boring, grief. When it settles, doesn't scream. It hums in the background. The company I worked for had just started a new internal program, employee-led wellness projects. I volunteered to lead one, not because I felt well, but because I needed structure. That project became a stepping stone to a promotion, then another. Within 2 years, I was quietly making more than I ever thought possible. No one in my family knew. When I saw my name printed on a national industry newsletter as top women to watch, I took a photo and saved it. I didn't send it to my parents. I didn't show Hannah. It wasn't for them. They thought I was still figuring it out. That's what my mother told her friends at church when they asked about me. Grace is doing fine. She's always been independent. Still single, still working, but she'll find her way. I didn't bother correcting them. Let them believe I was floating along in some modest little life. It made everything easier. There's something about invisibility that becomes empowering when you choose it. I walked into meetings with CEOs who didn't know my name 2 years ago, and now they listened when I spoke. I began consulting for companies double the size of the one I worked at. The number in my bank account was no longer just a number, it was a reminder that I had built something from ashes. I bought a condo, paid in full, in a quiet corner of the city with a view of the skyline and just enough space to breathe. No one in my family had ever seen it. My mother once asked if I was still living in that little rental. I said yes. When Hannah got engaged, she texted me a picture of the ring with the caption, "He did good, right?" I stared at it for a full minute before responding with a thumbs up emoji. It felt like the perfect balance of polite and uninterested. 3 months later, she sent another message. "You'll be my maid of honor, right?" I never replied. I didn't plan to, but Ethan found the text and looked at me quietly. "You don't have to go," he said. "But maybe. You should. Not for her, for you." So I said yes. At the bridal shower, she introduced me to her guests as my low-key older sister, the one who works in tech or something. She laughed. Everyone else laughed too. I smiled. She showed off her Pinterest boards for the wedding flowers in blush and ivory, string lights over long tables, a 6-tier cake flown in from another state. She talked about it like a royal coronation. Her big day. I brought a gift and left early. 2 weeks before the wedding, I ran into our mother at the grocery store. She looked surprised to see me, like she had to reset her face to match the moment. "Grace," she said, "you look good, healthier." "I've been well," I replied. She didn't ask where I lived. She didn't ask what I did. Just nodded and said, "Don't forget your dress fitting. Hannah will be upset if the photos don't match." The morning of the wedding, I arrived early. I wore the dress she picked, did my hair the way she requested, and stood beside her as she got her makeup done. She was glowing. She looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "This is the happiest day of my life." I said nothing. I just watched. In the background, Ethan made small talk with her fiancé. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. I saw her phone sitting unattended on the table. A little red notification flashed on the lock screen. I didn't plan to touch it. I didn't want drama. But then the name popped up. Natalie. A friend we both knew, once close, now distant. And right there, bold as ever, the message preview read, "Does she know you pushed her? I still have the voicemail you left." My breath stopped. I picked up the phone not to snoop, not to spy, but because suddenly everything clicked. The uneasiness. The way she avoided me during the first year, after the miscarriage, the awkward silences. I opened the message thread and scrolled. It was all there. Voicemails, audio files. One in particular, sent 5 months after the miscarriage. Hannah's voice choked with panic. I didn't mean to. I just snapped. She was judging me again, and I pushed her. She fell, and there was so much blood. Oh my God. What do I do? Don't tell anyone. Please, Natalie. Promise me. I copied the file to my phone. Then I did my makeup and walked down the aisle as if nothing had happened. At the reception, during the speeches, someone handed me the mic. Hannah looked over, smiling, expecting a sweet toast. I stood up, adjusted the mic, and pressed play. The room went silent. Her voice echoed through the speakers. The panic, the admission, the guilt, gasps. Silverware clinked against glass. Her groom froze. Her father stood. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. And Hannah? She turned white. That's where part 3 ends. Not with screaming, not with revenge. Just truth finally, and publicly no longer buried under years of silence. I didn't stay to watch the chaos unfold. I didn't have to. The moment the recording ended, the silence in the room was louder than any scream. Hannah stood frozen, her fingers twitching near the edge of the microphone stand. Her groom, Andrew, stared at her, like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. No one moved. No one dared to speak. Then a single sound cut through the tension, a chair scraping back. It was Andrew. He stepped away from the table, past the floral arrangements, past the towering wedding cake, and out through the open side doors into the night air. He didn't say a word, just left. My mother stood next. Her expression was unreadable. Not angry, not devastated, just stunned. as if some part of her had known, deep down, but never wanted it said out loud. My father stayed seated, maybe from shock, maybe from disbelief, or maybe he had run out of excuses. I didn't make a speech. I didn't need to. My job was done. The truth had spoken for itself. I left the mic on the table and returned to my seat like nothing happened. I took a sip of water. I watched people whisper, glance over, then whisper again. My dress still fit perfectly. My heels didn't shake. I waited, and then Hannah collapsed. Not dramatically, not fainting, but emotionally. She let out a choked sob, covered her face, and fell to her knees in the middle of the venue. Her wedding dress pooled around her like a broken curtain. She reached out toward me, still sobbing. "Grace, please," she whispered. "Please don't let it end like this." All eyes were on us now. She crawled forward, not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally, on her hands and knees across the polished floor of her own wedding, her hands clutching the front of her dress, mascara running down her face. The perfect image now shattered. She reached my table, kneeling right in front of me. "I didn't mean to," she said, voice cracking. "I swear. I was just angry. I didn't think it would go that far. I was jealous. You had everything. And I didn't know how to be okay with that. Everything inside me stilled. For a moment, I didn't feel anger or even satisfaction. I just felt hollow." I looked down at her, not from a place of superiority, but with the clarity of someone who had already said goodbye, long ago. In a hospital room, holding on to a hope that had slipped away because of the person now begging at my feet. "You didn't know how to be okay," I said softly. "So you decided I shouldn't be either." Her shoulders trembled. "I lost a child, Hannah." That single sentence cracked something open in the room. I had never said it out loud before, not even to my parents, not even to myself, not in full. But there it was, naked and whole and undeniable. It hung in the air like smoke. She nodded through her sobs. I know. I was so wrong. Please, Grace. Please. I don't want him to leave. I don't want this to be over. You don't have to forgive me. Just please say something to him." It was pathetic, but it was honest. My father finally stood then. He walked over, not to her, but to me. "Is it true?" he asked. I turned my gaze to him. "You heard it. I didn't. We didn't know." I looked at my mother. She had tears in her eyes. But she didn't deny it. She didn't defend Hannah. She simply lowered her gaze. "I've been invisible to you for years," I said. "I've spent my entire life being told to be quiet, to make peace, to be the bigger person. But not tonight. Tonight I'm just done." I stood. Hannah's hand grabbed the edge of my dress. "Please," she begged again, "don't leave me like this." I shook my head gently. "You left me the moment you pushed me." I walked away, slowly, deliberately. Out into the cool night air, the sound of voices still swirling behind me. But I didn't look back. Ethan was waiting by the valet, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. He didn't ask what happened. He just opened the door for me. We drove in silence. Later that night, I sat on the balcony of our apartment, legs curled under me, staring at the city lights. For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my chest. No unfinished sentence waiting to be said. No guilt. Ethan brought me tea. He didn't speak, he just sat beside me and rested his hand over mine. She begged. I said finally. She cried. She crawled. And I didn't feel anything. "Good," he whispered. The next day, my mother called. I didn't pick up. Then she sent a text. "We're sorry." No explanation, no questions. Just that. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. I wasn't interested in rewinding the story. I wasn't interested in starting over. That night, I took off the bridesmaid dress, folded it carefully, and placed it in a donation bag. I placed the invitation inside too, along with a photo from years ago, me and Hannah as kids, arms wrapped around each other, both grinning. I didn't throw it out, but I didn't keep it either. Some memories aren't worth carrying. Not anymore. That was the night I stopped being the girl in the background. I was no longer the shadow of my sister's story. I was writing my own. 3 days after the wedding imploded, I got a knock on my door. It wasn't Hannah, it was my parents. They stood there, stiff and formal, like they hadn't once lived in the same house with me. My mother held a Tupperware container like peace could be sealed inside it. My father had that nervous look he only got when something couldn't be ignored. "Can we come in?" he asked. I should have said no. I almost did, but I stepped aside. They sat at the kitchen table while I stayed standing. It wasn't to intimidate them, I just didn't feel comfortable pretending this was normal. My mother placed the container on the counter. "Chicken soup," she said. "Your favorite. I haven't liked that since I was 14. "Oh," she looked down. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "We wanted to talk. About what happened." "I'm listening." "We didn't know," he started, "about what happened to you. With the baby." I crossed my arms. "You didn't ask." My mother flinched like I had slapped her. "I thought you just needed space." I did, and I took it. But space doesn't mean silence. You just never followed up. She looked at my father for help. He nodded slowly. "We should have done better." I didn't say anything. My mother leaned forward. "Hannah hasn't left her apartment since the wedding. She's a mess. So am I. The difference is I just stopped apologizing for it. She's ashamed. Good." The word hit the table like a gavel. My father looked down, running his finger along a crease in the wood. "We raised you girls the same way. We never meant to make you feel unequal?" I interrupted. "Invisible?" They both looked up. "I remember when I won the state debate competition," I said. "You sent me flowers, a week late, because you were at Hannah's volleyball game and forgot." "That was just a mistake," my mom whispered. "Number. It was a pattern. She got praise. I got patience. She got attention. I got expectations. Neither of them responded. I took a deep breath. "Do you even know where I work now?" They blinked. "Do you know where I live? What I do? What I've built?" "You never told us," my mother offered weakly. "Because you never asked," I repeated. It was quiet again. Then my father stood. "You're right. That surprised me." He looked older than I remembered, more worn down, like the truth finally aged him. "We were so focused on keeping Hannah happy, we forgot you didn't need less. You just made less noise." My mother's eyes filled, but no tears fell. "We thought you were strong." "I am," I said, "but strong doesn't mean unbreakable." She reached out slowly, carefully. I didn't take her hand. "Not yet. We're not here to fix it overnight," she said. "But we want to start." I looked at her. "Why now?" "Because when I saw you that night," she said softly, "I realized I've never really seen you at all." That made something twist inside me. They left 15 minutes later. I didn't ask them to stay, but I also didn't slam the door. Progress, maybe. 2 days after that, Hannah called. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "Please, just talk to me once. I need to hear your voice." I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. I didn't. Not anymore. But I didn't owe her healing. That was her road to walk. I had walked mine alone for long enough. Instead, I sat in my living room, curled up in a blanket, and opened my laptop. A new email had arrived, another invitation to speak at a leadership panel. This one in DC. I clicked accept. Later that evening, Ethan found me packing. "Do you want me to come with you?" he asked. I smiled. "Number, I need to do this one solo." He nodded. "Proud of you." "I know." The panel was held in a high-rise conference center overlooking the city. I spoke last, standing in front of a room full of women who had climbed their own hills. I told them about resilience, not the kind you perform, but the kind you earn in silence. Afterward, a young woman approached me. "I don't know if you remember me," she said, "but we went to high school together. You were always so quiet. I never knew you'd become this." I smiled gently. Neither did they. Back in my hotel room, I ordered room service something indulgent, something warm. I sat near the window, looking down at the lights and the slow flow of evening traffic. No noise. No apologies. Just peace. I didn't need Hannah's forgiveness. I didn't need my parents to rewrite the past. I had become something outside of them. Not in spite of being invisible, but because of it. They say some people grow in the light. Me? I bloomed in the dark. A month passed. The dust from the wedding never really settled. Not in my family, at least. People talk. Secrets don't stay buried. Not when they've been played on loudspeakers in front of 200 guests. There were whispers in the church. Side eyes at the grocery store. People who had worshipped Hannah's perfect image now spoke in hushed voices, like grief could stain by association. She stopped posting on social media, took down all her engagement photos, removed her last name from her profile bio. I heard Andrew moved out 2 days after the wedding and never came back. I didn't follow up. Ethan asked if I felt guilty. I didn't. I felt done. Not victorious, not angry, just done. One night, as I was leaving the office late, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, it was Hannah. Her voice was quiet, hollow. "I know you probably won't call back," she said, "and I wouldn't blame you. I don't know who I am without all of it. The praise, the planning, the pretending. I wish I had seen you clearly when it still mattered. I wish I had listened before everything broke. I know I can't fix it. I just wanted you to hear me say it. I'm sorry." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. Closure, I learned, doesn't always come wrapped in neat endings. Sometimes it looks like letting go of a story that never belonged to you in the first place. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation. It wasn't from Hannah. It was from my parents. They were renewing their vows for their 35th wedding anniversary. A small backyard event, they wrote. Just family, casual, nothing big. They wanted to start new traditions. I read the card once and set it aside. I wasn't angry at them. Not anymore. But I also wasn't ready to slip back into old roles. Being present didn't mean being compliant. So I did something I hadn't done before. I made a decision just for me. I wrote a letter. "Dear Mom and Dad, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the gesture, truly. It's clear you're trying, and I see that. But I'm still healing from years of not being heard, from being invisible, from learning how to exist outside the family script. I hope the day is beautiful. I hope you dance. I hope Hannah laughs again. But I won't be there. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm finally somewhere else. Somewhere that feels like home. Please don't take it personally. I just need this space to keep growing. Love, Grace." I mailed it the next morning. That weekend, while they gathered under string lights and sipped wine from plastic cups, I boarded a plane. Destination, Portland. Just for a few days. No schedule. No obligations. I stayed in a small Airbnb with creaky floors and an old clawfoot tub. I wandered the Saturday market, ate alone at a diner without my phone in hand, watched people pass, listened to silence. There's something beautiful about being unknown in a place that doesn't expect anything from you. On my last night there, I walked by the river. The breeze was cool, the sky dusky lavender. I stopped by a little bench overlooking the water and just sat. That's when I saw her. Not Hannah. Not my mother. Just a woman mid-32nd, maybe pushing a stroller. She looked tired, but content. She stopped near the water, leaned down to check on the baby, and then stood back up. Alone, quiet, strong. I thought of the child I had lost. Not with pain, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. That child changed everything. Made me see what mattered, made me fight harder, made me softer in the right places. If I ever become a mother again, it won't be out of pressure or timing or expectation. It will be on my terms, fully, boldly, with love that knows how to protect itself first. When I returned home, Ethan picked me up from the airport. He didn't ask what I did. He just squeezed my hand and said, "You look different." "I feel different," I said. Back at our apartment, I unpacked slowly, carefully, as if every item I placed back into my space had to earn its place. Later that week, I donated the last box of family mementos I'd kept in the back of the closet. Photos, cards, souvenirs from childhood birthdays. I kept one photo me at age 10, holding a science fair ribbon, grinning, alone. Not because I was forgotten, but because I remembered myself. That to me was the real ending, not revenge, not a collapse. Just the quiet act of choosing peace. The next time my phone rang and it said, "Mom," I picked up. We talked. Not about the wedding, not about the past, just about the weather, the garden, a new book she was reading. She didn't ask me to come home, and I didn't offer, but the conversation ended softly. "I'm proud of you," she said. For once, I believed it. That night, I stood by the window and whispered something only I could hear. "I forgive you, and more importantly, I forgive me." Then I closed the curtains and let it all go.